So my guest joining me this morning for the news review, we have Madam Catherine Ablema Afeku, former Member of Parliament for Evalu Ajiboro constituency and former Minister of State under the Eswal administration, and of course our very own Afelmoni, former President of Ghana Journalists Association. Welcome to the program, lady and gentlemen.
Thank you. It always ignites a high sense of pride to be on your program.
Thank you for that.
Partnered by Her Excellency, Catherine.
Oh, and we got to bow, everyone. But I mean, I realized that you're in high spirits this morning, Catherine. How is it going this morning? Usually we give our guests a minute and a half or 2 minutes to walk us through any reflections they may have on a national issue. But I'm wondering what that would be, because you came in very excited today. What's on your mind?
Well, it's just being in a good spirit, being alive and being grateful. I think, and of course, I had my coffee. I'm an avid coffee drinker. Okay. But just generally being in a good spirit for just being alive. That's the one. But if you want me to spend my 2 minutes on a topical issue,
yes.
I'd like, Ms. Alfemoni is really one of my mentors, by the way. You know it today.
Oh, thank you so much for the honor.
I want to bring to the fore the cry of the school feeding caterers. These women, poor women, borrow money to buy food and to give it to the children that we are hoping will be the next generational leaders. And they are stuck with debt. So we use this great platform to appeal to the First Lady. She's our mother, to see to it that these women are paid. So that is really my concern this morning. It's an objective request. It is not partisan. The women who fed the children are still being owed. And when you come into office, you take the assets and liabilities. This is one of the liabilities that I would request our First Lady. You see where I'm going? I'm not asking the President. I'm not asking the Finance Minister. I'm asking our First Lady, Madam Lodina, please, a phone call from you will touch the hearts of our Finance Minister to pay our ladies. Thank you.
I remember the last time you were here was the same call.
It has
you were
not
talking
been,
about the same
it touches
issue.
my heart. Because, I mean, imagine a poor lady in a rural community who's going to borrow money and to borrow the groceries from a small mom and dad shop. So the ripple effect is the lady who's owed, the shop where she credited from, and all the other ancillary victims in the process. So a phone call will deal with this for us, madam. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Moni, what would you share with us this morning?
Mine is not that of lamentation, but...
I wasn't lamenting. I'm appealing to the conscience of the nation. It's not lamentation. It's a cause.
Appeal?
Appeal, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Noted.
Okay.
Noted. Correction well noted.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I would like to look at the upcoming DG election. And tomorrow is the last day for aspirants to pick up forms to contest the various positions. And after that, the whole election will crank into gear. We all know that every election induces its own tension. We've in the past, we've witnessed the high voltage tensions and red hot tempers which characterize the DG elections.
Yeah.
Ending up in courts, but the points ought to be articulated that elections are not won in the courts, are won at the ballot board. So we call on journalists to offer themselves to occupy leadership positions, to have catapult the DG to a higher pedestal. And many are shackled by fear because they think they are not sure whether they will succeed. But success is a child of audacity. So we call on journalists of professional competence and leadership acumen to be audacious enough to offer themselves to serve the umbrella body of journalists in this country. And we're also appealing for free and fair election. What happened the last time has been consigned to the dustbin of history, but history should always serve as a guide. We should play it very fair, and there should be no sign of manipulation anywhere. The best candidate should win, and we also call on journalists to vote fairly.
All right.
And their conscience should guide them to vote into office, people of competence and character. And to add a little to character, you know, leadership is about character.
I want to make room for our third guest to join us.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to the Daily Graphic now. Let me start sharing the stories on the front page. And then maybe in the course of the conversation, you can add the last bit of that. So on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, on tax exemption irregularities, hold public officials accountable, PwC senior partner is saying. And Supreme Court dismisses Chief Justice's injunction application. Borrow only for revenue generating projects. This is coming from Mr. Tekpe. And Professor Kia Brinchum chairs 18-member National Media Commission. These are the stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic. And there's one here I need to put out there. It says, when you need to pay your taxes, levies, and all statutory obligations on ghana.gov, we can help. There's a number here. So pick a copy of the Daily Graphic for yourself and get into it. And it's a good time to welcome Mr. Nelson Kofi Jabab. He's Member of Parliament for Karachi East constituency. Welcome aboard, Honourable.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good morning, Honourable.
Before I get into the newspapers, I want to give Afemoni the time to complete his thought, and I'll come back to you for your 2-minute take on what is occupying your mind right now. Mr. Moni, please conclude on those thoughts.
As I was saying, leadership and character are intrinsically linked. And to quote Helsinki, leadership is character. So we should make sure that men and women of character are voted into office to help drive the GJ to a new level.
All right. Thank you. So, Mr. Jabab, what's on your mind this morning? In a minute and a half, 2 minutes at most. Share with us.
Thank you. First of all, I want to it.
I will fine you, please. And you have to pay the fine.
Thank you. There's no problem about that. And what is bothering my mind this morning is a national issue. Yesterday, the director of Ghana Health Service sounded an alarm that Mpox, that's monkeypox.
Yes.
Yes. I think they've recorded recently quite about 10 cases, bringing to a total of 19 cases.
Yeah.
So we would like to at least advise Ghanaians, especially in our public institutions, like the universities, other tertiary institutions, prisons, we should all take guard against it because this is contagious.
Yeah.
So that's what I have.
Well, thank you so much. So let's get into the newspapers now. I'll start with the Daily Graphic. And there's a call here, hold public officials accountable. A tax partner at PwC, Abekujan Kwanza, has called on Ghanaians to hold public officials accountable for tax exemptions granted to businesses. And he explained that in spite of the passage of the Exemptions Act 2022, regulating the granting of tax waivers with a key provision allowing the states to take equity in companies that benefited from such waivers, some exemptions were being granted without transparency and at variance with the legal framework meant to guide the process. So that's the first story that I would like us to discuss, but let me quickly run through the remaining stories and then we'll discuss the ones really that pique your interest. Kenyan president apologizes to Tanzania over deportation row. U.S. stops scheduling visa interviews for foreign students. Yeah, this is a very topical one. The State Department has halted the scheduling of new visa interviews for foreign students hoping to study in the United States, while it prepares to expand the screening of their activity on social media, officials say. So if you haven't yet been scheduled for an interview and you want to go to school abroad in the United States, doesn't look like you'll be getting an interview date anytime soon, so pay attention. Supreme Court dismisses Chief Justice's injunction application, and the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokono, has failed in her attempt to have her suspension by President John Dramani Mahama halted by the Supreme Court. The unanimous decision yesterday, a 5-member panel of the Apex Court dismissed Justice Tokono's application for interlocutory injunction, describing it as, quote, without merit. Let me add one more story and then we can start the discussion. President to launch 24-hour economy on Republic Day. President John Dramani Mahama has announced that government will officially launch the 24-hour economy policy in July, most likely on Republic Day, as part of a bold new agenda to transform Ghana's productivity and export capacity. This was their key flagship program during the campaign season, and the opposition has been criticizing that it wasn't in the budget, nothing's been heard so far, and it looks like it's just pockets of, some small sectors that have already started. And now it looks like they're finally ready to launch the 24-hour economy policy. I want to start with you, Mr. Jabab. I want to give the last word to Madam Catherine. Yeah. So on all these stories, Supreme Court dismissing the CJ's application, the rollout of the 24-hour economy, the U.S. visa scheduling halt for those students who want to go and visit or study in the U.S. And that's call for Ghanaians to hold public officials accountable. It's when it comes to tax waivers and tax exemptions.
Thank you. Yes, tax exemptions. The Act, as amended in 2022, that's the Tax Exemptions Act.
Yeah.
1083. It is not for nothing that taxes are exempted for some specific institutions or individuals. Now, if I understand the story, it calls for accountability,
yes,
on those that these taxes are granted. So, if taxes are granted, sometimes for purposes of the growth of industries, sometimes on specific goods, it is not obviously on all taxes that exemptions are granted. So if you expect waivers to be granted on some taxes, then probably there is state interest in that area. We want to promote the growth of that industry. So if taxes are granted, and people sometimes abuse the system, if you abuse the tax regime, it's a crime. And you could be whole culpable, could be whole liable. So therefore, there is a need that when state grants exemptions or waivers to beneficiaries who enjoy them, they should account for them. So those who are calling for accountability as far as tax exemptions are concerned, I think it's in the right direction.
Okay. So that's on the first story. Do you want to touch on, should I go around and come back to you? On the 24-hour economy policy rollout and the Chief Justice's application that was dismissed yesterday. Quick comments on that.
24-hour economy rollout by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama on the coming July. This is one of our main campaign message that we campaign with in 2024 elections. And John Mahama, His Excellency the President, whatever he promises, at least he touches it and he does it. 24-hour economy.
Are you sure you can make such a blanket statement? Before we started the news review, we just listened to, was it Oliver Baka or Senyo Hosi, I think, was talking about the president's promise to end Galamsey, declare state of emergency. In fact, all the requests that civil society organizations were making, the NDC were backing those calls. And since it's assumed office, it's been 6 months or so yet, we haven't declared a state of emergency. Don't get me wrong. We are seeing the actions that the various ministries are taking.
That's where we're
but the key promises that he made, only because you said that whatever he promises, he touches it and he does it. So I want you to...
He touches and he does it. If he promised that he's going to end Galamsey, he's going to do this ABC in Galamsey, we've seen all efforts by the presidency. We've seen all efforts by the state to fight Galamsey. I think 2 weeks ago, we were discussing about the recent arrests in the Galamsey area. We know the arrests are not enough, but at least it's an attempt to tackle Galamsey. We've seen how the presidency has put steps in place. For example, the gold board, all that are processes to streamline the illegal mining. So all this It's a process.
Okay.
It's not an event. And we believe that the presidency, for that matter, President John Dramani Mahama, will deliver on all these issues.
All right. Mr. Moni, let me get your thoughts on these stories and how it resonates with you and I and our viewers. So the 24-hour economy policy rollout set to begin in July. Then there's the Chief Justice's application that was dismissed yesterday in a unanimous decision. And I think the call to hold public officials accountable when it comes to tax waivers. Those are our main stories.
24-hour economy. And it goes without saying that it was a major campaign promise by the ruling government. So far, the opposition has been on the neck of the government that no action has been seen. And so, as you speak, it remains a whole rhetoric. So the ball is now in the court of officialdom to prove their critics wrong by ruling out a system which will multiply the number of employed Ghanaians we have. And unemployment is a big issue, and 24-hour economy has been so designed to help address this issue. So all eyes on the government to meet the expectations, which are so high. And we know Rome was not built in a day, but the president knows very well that he has no luxury of time, and Ghanaians are impatient, waiting for him to deliver on his promises. Otherwise, they will express their revulsion at the polls, whether he stands or not. On the tax exemptions, the saying by Amlandes refers. Amlandes once said, the naked truth is better than a well-dressed lie. And the naked truth, contextually, is that tax exemptions have been, the intentions are good in certain respects, but we all know that tax exemptions have created loopholes for people to make the state feed fat on or reap where they have not sown. And calls have been rising on the government to block the leakages, the hemorrhage, stop the hemorrhage, to ensure that we derive maximum benefit from the tax exemptions. We all know that even though the CD has been rising, even though there are signs of economic recovery, all this does not obscure the fact that our economy is still on the ropes, and contractors ought to be paid. Workers are still have the appetite to go on strike because their expectations are not met, their demands are not met. So all this reinforces the need to plug the loopholes and ensure the nation derives maximum benefit from the tax exemption.
Okay. Something you said about the economy, I had the chance to interact with, regular Ghanaians. It came out as if I don't interact with Ghanaians on a daily, but I mean, I went into the town, like I went to Abosokan to speak to spare parts dealers because there's a call on them to reduce the cost of items. And they were saying some hard truths that I think I want to share. They're talking about the increase in electricity and water tariffs. They're talking about import duty remaining the same. The fact that the CD is appreciating doesn't mean automatically they have to reduce the cost of their goods and services.
The cost of living is still bitingly bitter.
Yeah, it's not all that rosy right now.
That is the truth.
Anyway.
But one thing I may ask, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Assuming the CD had not appreciated this cost of
spare parts
and other things, the utilities and other things, they were still high. You see it? So what we are appealing to Ghanaians, especially the traders, is that we know. You see, Rome was not built in a day. This government came barely 5 months ago, and we've seen how giantly the CD is posing against the major currencies of the global trade. Okay. So with that alone, they should also be a bit considerate. We are not saying that they should take everything so that Ghanaians will just be, Ghana will just be a heaven in a day, but at least it can ameliorate the suffering of the consuming public.
Okay. Let me throw that to Madam Catherine now. It's your time for us to hear you out on all the stories. This is the first round.
A very good morning to your cherished viewers. Sweetie, you gave us a few topics. The first one is the tax exemption.
Yes.
I have an interest in the tax exemption because we also, in fairness, need to let our viewers appreciate the work done with Act 1083. There's a lot of discretionary powers vested in the finance minister.
True.
As much as Parliament will give the approval, executive approval in terms of cabinet support, about 80% is resting on the shoulders of the finance minister. And if you look at the rationale behind the tweaking and the amendment that brought in Act 1083, it was to promote investments. GIPC, free zones, these are areas that they really appreciate tax exemptions. So it wasn't things that were just done arbitrarily. You have the law backing the issuance of tax exemptions. Where our concern as citizens is really the monitoring and the evaluation process. When you're given a tax exemption to an entity operating in a free zone enclave, are they using it to create jobs? Are they using it to reduce importation of goods that can be made in Ghana? So these are the areas that, you know, you have the public interest account committee.
Yes.
We should have a similar focusing on tax exemption, its usage and its implementation as to how it benefits. But I will go a radical step further to say, maybe it is time to look inward. Why don't we tax exempt our own industrialists? This was where 1D, 1F had come in with the policy of giving tax exemption to local industrial giants. So you could set up your own factory, employ Ghanaians. It seems our tax exemption law is geared towards the foreign investor to promote FDI. But what about internal generated businesses that is homegrown that can actually support? So it was started with 1D, 1F. If you're a Ghanaian, you want to set up your small cottage industry, you were given some kind of incentive. So government should look into that. I think with that, the monitoring is easier. If you give it to some foreign investor in a foreign free zone enclave, how are you going to track? Because remember, they have a lot of incentives protecting the repatriation. It's actually one of the clauses is they have 100% expropriation and you don't interrupt or interfere.
Right.
So these are ways that we can stem the outflow of revenue by working on giving it to our indigenous businesses.
That's a great point. Just to add that, I think next time we see the next batch of tax exemptions going to Parliament for approval and all that, before the Public Interest Committee, we should all be interested to ask questions.
Who?
Why? Who? Why do they deserve to be exempted from taxes? So
other
that
than
we're not
a Ghanaian.
just because I think that the full story is saying that some people even use it as a way to indulge in corruption and some sort of
it is very possible
malfeasances. So
so let's
we should
focus
all be
on us.
interested in that.
Yes. Now
the next stories.
The second one, of course, of special interest, 24-hour economy. Sweetie, let's be objective. I go to a pharmacy within Accra. I don't want to promote anybody's business. That operates 24. I buy my fuel at a gas station that operates 24-hour. So it wasn't a new concept. 24. You can go to a doctor that I've used for the last 20 years. They operate 24 hours. So there are a lot of industries already that were operating the 24-hour in our country. So I just want to put it on record that 24-hour economy was not an innovative idea.
But that was in particular areas.
It was not.
You wouldn't find some fuel
Sweetie,
stations open. I'm just adding some angles to your...
just saying it was not an innovative idea like coming up with one district, one factory, or doing a free senior high school in our country. So the innovative idea is not 24-hour economy. Now, we're waiting. I just read on page 13, we're waiting for policy submission and documents. So it is yet to be manifest in a proper executive instrument. We don't have that yet. It will be launched on Republic Day. It will not be implemented. So let's not run. Let's just have that wait and see attitude. As I'm sitting here, I've told you from day one, I'm going to keep government on its toes. The 24-hour economy policy is not something we can see. We don't have it yet. And in fairness, the president receives policy draft from stakeholders. They are collating, they are putting it together. So it's not yet time to celebrate or say, you know, my colleague from Cashew almost got the president into trouble, that anything and everything he says he does. No, with caution. No, not yet. So let's wait and see what document will be put together, and then we can critique and see what areas. I will be interested in seeing the agribusiness having some kind of impetus in the 24-hour economy. Food sufficiency and reducing importation of food will be a plus. It's for Ghana, so I want to see that. But as of today,
let's not celebrate.
It is not yet anywhere near a 24-hour economy document that I can touch and feel.
Mr. Jabba, were you going to say something in response, or should she finish?
Of course.
Okay. Just I want to hear what his response will be to that.
To my 24-hour observation?
To say that, yes, to your observation
to
that it's not the innovative idea. It's not the 24-hour economy policy.
It is not, and you know that.
It's time for you to defend your government now.
If you say it is not something new, then I have a problem over there. Because for whatever you do, until it is formalized, we assume that it was not existing. 24-hour economy, there is a pharmacy that you go there to buy your medications 24 hours. But then we know that it was happening. It was not formalized.
But it was happening.
Yeah, it was happening.
That's all.
In selected cases, as you said,
it's still happening.
Probably your one pharmacy is the area where it was happening.
But I feel like you're feeding into her case that it doesn't make it an innovative idea.
Thank you. It was happening.
Of course, it's an innovative idea. What are we
talking about? Formalizing something that was already.
Why are you rushing?
No, I'm just guiding.
It's going to be launched. It's going to be launched. When it's launched, it's going to be what? Implemented.
Okay.
And that's what she waits to see.
Okay.
And I want her to wait and see. It will be launched, it will be implemented. And Ghanaians are waiting. I know well-meaning Ghanaians who are lauding the president for this brilliant policy, 24-hour economy. Of course, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Youth are going to get employment by implementation of 24-hour economy. So if one thinks that 24-hour economy will fail, especially my friends from the MPP, so that they will say that they said it and it never happened, it will never happen.
All right.
It's going to work. It will be successful.
I believe you, actually. So I'm just gonna watch and see what happens. Yes,
just so that our viewers will get the clarity.
Yeah.
My colleague here agreed it is not new. And he has agreed that my wait and see approach is appropriate. But for you to go the next step and say someone is sitting on a fence and waiting for it to fail, that does not make Ghanaians patriots.
Well, okay.
And he needs to. Yeah, he needs to.
I don't think that he
said that.
Well,
he said that. So that whole negative spirit needs to go. Mr. Philmoni, you are GJ. You edit. Edit.
What I said is that not she alone. Even the time we were campaigning with this policy, 24-hour economy, you hear a lot of MPP, communicators.
Right.
Oh, no, this is not new. 24-hour economy, it will never happen. This is just...
My dear, you said SHS will not happen. So it's nothing new.
There are some people who are waiting on the fence for, governments to fail one way or the other. That's the reality.
That's their right.
Okay, there are people who are punching the loopholes in everything that government does.
That's normal politics.
That's normal.
I'm talking about us sitting here and our presentation on this platform. No one, myself included, said we're waiting to see it fail. The most critical point is it is not here.
Okay.
And we all agree on that.
I would like to intervene so we move on from this quickly so that our audience can get the best out of us this morning.
It's true from antiquity. Sectors of the economy have been operating on a 24-hour basis. And by the innovative spark of this program is the scale of implementation.
Okay.
So let's see to what extent.
Objectively.
Yeah, let's see to what extent.
It's not new.
Let me do one last round of papers and then I'll come to you to get into yours. Government approves 200 transformers for ECG. Assemblies engage traditional leaders to resolve land disputes. And NSA boss pledges to honor black rockets. Implementing this is an editorial, implementing 24 economy, informal sector economic actors transitioned. And the last thing I want to touch on now, Vice President urges African countries to build efficient gas trade network. So I'll pause here and then we get into your papers. There's also a story about Ghana to undergo AU anti-corruption peer review. Let me get this out. This is important. Ghana will next week undergo a high-level review of its anti-corruption systems as part of a continental assessment under the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption. How are we doing, Mr. Moni, when it comes to the campaign against corruption? I know we keep saying that corruption is as old as Adam and no one can completely eradicate corruption, but are we seeing anything better
under this credible
administration?
Instrument for measuring corruption is the Transparency International report by Transparency International. And over the years, we've been stagnating. We waited to see how the Mahama administration will catapult us from where we've been languishing to a place which will ignite pride in all Ghanaians. The extent to which corruption is tackled. And this is most proven when you deal with your own. Most often politicians, when it comes to deal with their own, they hesitate, and sometimes they're selective in applying the rules. So the rare test will come when officials of government are suspected of milking the state or reaping where they have not sown, feeding fat on resources which belong to all of us. So far, the case against Sami Jemfi was the starting point. Ghanaians are waiting to see how His Excellency President will deal with members of his administration who fall foul of the law. Early this year, so let's see how it pans out.
Okay.
But it bears repeating and emphasizing that Ghanaians are watching. And Ghanaians, politicians will never take Ghanaians for granted. They may keep quiet, but at the appropriate time, they will speak and speak loudly.
All right, thank you. Catherine?
Yes.
On anti-corruption.
I've always had, my ideas could be a bit... Transparency International is an international yardstick of judging corruption. And if you look at the perception index, it's always tilted towards African nations being painted as if they are monsters. And when you have a platform like this, it is time we start looking inward. Do we have our own Ghanaian Transparency International version? Do we always have to copy what the West is saying? I mean, we are in this country. I know Afel. Now I've met Karachi East. What are we doing ourselves?
No, sir.
We have polls,
Mr.
Jabab.
Yeah, the constituency is
we always use the constituency,
Okay.
So
but there are
he's Karachi
polls.
East.
Afrobarometer, there's...
Thank you.
What's his name? Musa Dankwa has polls as well.
So
There are some
my
polls
advocacy is let's put more effort in our own indigenous watchdogs and give them the impetus to name and shame. So because we always take what is coming from outside, we take it line, hook and sink, and we are encouraged to just bash each other. Meanwhile, there should be a domestic yardstick, Afrobarometer, Musa Dankwa, and there was GII, my friend Azim.
Yes.
These are people who have spent their lives monitoring, and
they've been vocal.
Thank you. And playing the whistleblower, but we are not giving them the props that they deserve. So I would take it with a grain of salt when it's always a yardstick being judged by some international organization seated somewhere. They're not here. They don't go to Abusokai. They are not going to Jachi Pramso to look at the actual CUs. That is my take.
Okay.
But whatever it is that they have brought, we will evaluate. But for now, I would advocate for us putting more effort in our own domestic watchdogs.
But I think this is, in a way, domestic because this is African Union.
No.
Right? So within the continent...
No, they're yet to come.
Yeah.
What methods are they using to judge Ghanaian corruption index? How would you judge Botswana and their corruption? What do you have And how do you judge it? So I'm just saying, let's think outside the box.
Okay.
There are people in Ghana who are doing a good job. Let's listen to them. Let's hear their thoughts, and let's use their yardstick to check ourselves as people in office.
Okay. Just for some more context, so this is Shamima saying, Deputy Government Spokesperson, and she's saying that, quote, subjecting ourselves to this peer review reflects our determination to uphold accountability at all levels. No institution is exempt from scrutiny in this national effort, she says. So when next week, when the African Union delegation comes,
they come.
Every institution will undergo some sort of scrutiny to see or ascertain where we are
and
right
for how
now.
long? How long
I don't know how the duration.
Thank you.
How long
so we just end up being another lip service.
I'm interested in this. I'll get more details and then we'll share with you.
We need to sharpen our focus.
We need to, we need to really focus the energy on our own, because AU, the maximum they will do is a week. Yes, it's international, it's continental. We've had the peer review mechanism. Remember the days of President Kufuor?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be another talk shop. So let's focus on our own and use their yardsticks to judge our performance in the corruption
Mr.
fight.
Jabab, final word on this, and then we get into the Ghanaian Times.
Yes. Ghana is a member of the United Nations. And of course, African Union, we are a member of African Union. I do agree that we should focus on our own. You cannot get the best anywhere than your own. But sometimes too, I think they also need to live up to expectation. They need to do better for people to accept whatever, at least, whatever, findings, research they make, and they come out, what barometer they use, and they should be measured by that barometer. People should accept and have confidence in them.
Okay.
Transparency International, they didn't just become Transparency International in a day. They started from somewhere up to where they are today. So we believe that we may not be up to that standard, but at least people should see, Ghanaians should see that our own are doing something that we can be proud of, that can be compared. Musa Dankwa and Co. They should come out with sometimes their research, their findings, with barometer. People should see that clearly this is something that you can trust.
Right.
You understand it? So if we have this confidence in them, why not? Now, you see that there is the need. Everyone is looking for that transparency. Everyone is looking for that fight against corruption. And the presidency is committed to fight corruption. We know Ghana as a nation is committed to fighting corruption. So if we are committed to fighting corruption, then our institutions must be something that we have confidence in. So if we have our local institutions that will help us fight institutions, there should be confidence in them that these institutions can help us fight corruption. Then I bet you they will grow.
Okay. So you know how they say that sometimes the optics are very important. And I hate to bring this back because I was one of those who thought that that horse was overflogged, the Sami Jemfi case. But because Mr. Moni just mentioned it, that it was a true test of, how committed this administration was. I want to pick your thoughts on that again, Mr. Jabab. Do you think that now that that's blown over, because every issue, every major scandal in this country takes 2 weeks, and then we just move on to something else. But now that that's blown over, do you think that the presidency, this administration, actually demonstrated that they're committed to fighting corruption?
Absolutely, the presidency demonstrated that they are committed to fighting corruption. Sometimes people get it wrong, comparing apples with mangoes. Why am I saying this? Sami Jemfi's issue, what was it? What basis is it?
Let's not get back into that and bring back the arguments because we have to get into it. No, but you answered my question. You said yes, the government is committed.
The government is committed.
Yeah.
And I think the process was fair.
Okay, let's leave the rest for our audience.
Question was okay.
Okay, thank you. So let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper now. You can walk us through the stories on the front page and then do 2 major stories that you want to walk us through.
Sweetie.
You want to go back to Sami Jemfi?
No. I was just not him as a person.
Yes.
It's just the government's commitment that he was saying. Generally, I think being objective, I think the handling was a bit too soft. We should have gone a step further based on the advocacy and the pre-campaign demonstration that we show that when we come in, even if an ant is seen falling foul of the law, we will do ABC. So I think it could have gone a bit farther to interrogate the source of the fund. But then again, like you're saying, Ghanaian issues die within 2 weeks. But if you go back there, we could have done a better job. Just to be a test case based on the campaign messages and the fervor that was put in. So that's my take on that.
Yeah.
But do you want the front page?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Wailing teeth gnashing at Ramsar site as more than 100 houses bulldozed. You know, I have a very passionate issue. It's actually the editorial about the Ramsar site. You know, these are the heritage left for us hundreds of years ago to save the environment. And then you have recalcitrant citizens building in waterways. It has become like we are so jaded. It happens, and then there's a flooding, and then we wail, and then the houses are demolished. I think we have to have a better plan. Not a law, because we have enough laws on the books, but a better systematic plan. If you are found foul of building in waterways, what are the punitive measures? So it's clear, and everybody knows. That's why I'm advocating for our homegrown watchdogs. If you are found building in a Ramsar site, what is the punitive measure? So even a school child will be made aware. Like we were told not to drive on the left or right in the 70s, we're still following. So some of these rules have to be very clear, concise. We go through the cycle virtually every raining season. People will still go back, build in waterways, and then they'll break the house, and then we will gnash our teeth. We're not going. We move 2 steps forward and we come back 10 steps. So for me, we are on the fence waiting to come back into government. This opportunities with this government is to make it very clear. There are a lot of acts, there are a lot of laws, and it can be activated or you just create an edict. If you are found foul of this law, A, B, C will happen. And everybody will obey and comply. Because this happens. You've been here long enough. It happens all the time.
Is there a problem of implementation or compliance? Compliance, where compliance will refer to we, the citizens.
Exactly.
And implementation and forcing from the government.
It is compliance. It is because the enforcement you see, NADMO.
Because look at Circle and the places that were decongested.
The next day.
Look at that place.
The next day.
Yeah.
A citizen removed there. So it's compliance. And until we get back into that mindset orientation that what you're doing is wrong. So we have gotten to the stage where I wouldn't use the word lawlessness. We haven't reached there, but we're so jaded. It's like you're moved, you're evicted, and the next day you go back. So there has to be some kind of iron fist, ironclad determination to eradicate indiscipline.
Okay, let me go around and come back to you for another story in there. Mr. Money, what do you think? The wailing and teeth gnash, that what we're seeing there, you know, the demolition, should we not heed their call because they say they have nowhere else to go?
Henry Quarty, the former Greater Accra Regional Minister,
Yes.
Went on a radical tangent to deal surgically with this issue.
Yes.
He made lots of progress, but on the line, politics set in, and that devalued whatever he did. Here we are again, the rains are pouring in torrents. Houses are flooding, people are dying. So there's a need more than ever before to deal radically with this issue. So Greater Accra Regional Minister, Her Excellency Linda, yes, she's on the right track. She needs the support of all. We, of course, in certain areas we need to, come in with some human faith, but we should look at the overall picture. If we do not deal with this radically and surgically, to come back and haunt us and inflict greater disaster than we are seeing now. So the time has come to go all out there and then deal with the issue from the root and not the branch. The branch approach has dominated our system for far too long. This is time to move from the branch approach to the root approach the root cause, to deal with the root causes.
The root cause would be dealing with the people who let these lands, who sell these lands to these people, because they didn't just get up and go build there, on their own volition. Someone ought to have given them permission to build there.
And the citizens authority also watch on for the house to spring up. Nothing was done.
Thank you, Mr. Jabab. So both Catherine and Mr. Moni says no sympathy for these people. We should stop dealing with them with a branch approach. What do you say?
I think I agree with them. You see, let me go back a little bit beyond where Mr. Moni started. I recall the days of the then mayor, Afradoku Vanderboy. There was an attempt to move, some slum areas from Agbogblosi Enclave, some other places. Ajuru Kotoko. I don't know whether I'm right. I'm getting
that's still Henry Cote. That's still Henry Cote.
Yeah, it was Henry
Cote. I did a feature on it. Those who were there, the old onion market. They were moved to Ajuru Kotoko.
Some later were moved to some later were moved to Potin. Went on the way to Futu areas. You can see that the place has started becoming a market bound place. Their happy business activities are going on. See, dealing with issues like this, sometimes the laws need to be enforced. We are not saying that we are happy when we see in our own. Are you understanding? Being left, they have nowhere. But sometimes, as she said, sometimes when granting them permit, we need to blame the authorities too. When granting permit, we should know areas that must not be allowed.
But most people build without permits.
They don't build with permits.
Yes. So when you build with that permit, then you are caught up with the law.
Exactly.
And when the law comes after you, that is when we are left between human face and the law.
And that is where we are right now.
That's where we are right now.
I went to Lower Wager 2 days ago, I think, on the back of Ghana Water Company's directive that those in those parts, Lower Wager, some towns should evacuate because you're doing a control spillage of the Wager Dam because the safe operating level of the water, which is 47, now is at 45. So they're just 2 feet shy of reaching that limit. I went there and there were people comfortably living. Nobody had any intention of moving. And later I found out that it's because they're living there. They put up a shack. It's not even concrete buildings. And no one gave them permission to build there. No one gave them any permission to be there. And they are there. And if the floods come right now, like we say in our local parlance, Tofiakwa. But if it actually happened that they have to spill more water, excess water, and that place floods right now, they're going to be shouting, the government this, government that. Meanwhile, you are the one causing these problems. It's time for us to start doing things as citizens.
So you see.
I'm just backing all the
It's radical, it's surgical, and it's compliance.
We need to start doing things for ourselves.
We have
to.
Compliance. Sometimes the enforcement must be rigorous. It needs to be consistent. In fact, dealing with human beings sometimes is difficult to comply. So what we want to say is that once that deliberate action to enforce the laws, it needs to be consistent. You gave a case of traders moved from the pavements. Is it the following day? The next day. So unless there is deliberate attempt, you are consistent with it, then you get to a point the person becomes used to. The person becomes, he gets to understand himself or herself.
So let's assess the strategy you're using under this administration. I hear that they're going to position security personnel, security officials over there to ensure that nobody crosses the lines that they have drawn, not physical lines, the demarcations, where you can sell and where you cannot sell. Is that sustainable?
It cannot be. It cannot.
Let me start with you, Mr. Moni. Catherine, you go first. Is that sustainable?
Sweetie, I keep calling you with your last name. That is not a solution. See, the root cause of it is compliance. I keep going back to the person seated on the pavement. What is he or she thinking about Ghana? If you love this nation, you will comply that we don't sell on pavement, period. But when we go back into blaming a technocrat, blaming a politician, the culprit is the person selling on the pavement. But then, you know, I'm in politics, so they'll use the yardstick. We won't vote for you if you remove us. And there has to be a cutoff point where it is radical enough that you love this nation to the extent that you will make sure our pavement is free so pedestrians can use it. And that is the root cause of it. Henry Quarter did it. He incurred a lot of enmity, but he was on the right path. See, and then politics will get in the way. Human face will get in the way. That's what I'm saying. It starts with the citizen.
Thank you.
It starts
Let's
with
keep it
me
brief.
and you.
Mr. Moni, is it sustainable, what they're doing? Also, I hear they're going to have a day or two where they can all come onto the street and sell, and on the other days they have to clear off the pavement. Is that sustainable?
Straight implementation of the law or the bylaws of the AMA should go in tandem with alternative places for the women to sell. We're told that they've been provided with alternative places, so we need to look at how viable are these places.
Okay.
And it should also go with education. It is in their own interest not to sell on the pavement, on the street. Drivers were prompted to go on strike until official setting. So we should never go back to this situation.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. You have the final word on this matter.
Oh, no, I'm okay.
You're okay, all right. So let's get into one more story from the Ghanaian Times.
I found a favorite story that I'm sure my colleagues here will support. Unlock full potential of cashew value chain. The BA Regional Minister, Joseph Kwabwa, has challenged stakeholders in Africa's cashew industry to develop innovative strategies to unlock the full potential. I think from what I'm reading, there was some ECOWAS Cashew Alliance meeting, and this is one product. I have a personal experience. I went to Sampa and I saw the amount of cashew being exported raw to India, to other countries, and I looked. You watch the television and you look at our neighbors in Burkina adding value, processing factories. We had some in other jurisdictions that it's bringing the jobs that when you add value to a raw material. But that enclave, cashew, can be a game changer. Okay. The reason why I'm interested in this story, because the gentleman said, if you add value, do you know that just 2 days ago, coincidentally, I read that in South Africa, they're seeing the benefit of the fruit of the cashew and they're turning it into a vaccine. Cashew and the entire Brong-Ahafo region is known for this. Other countries, you know, you build regional value chain around a product. I think the BA should rally around cashew and create value instead of it being exported raw.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, the roads, I'm on Madame Lodina today, the roads in that cashew growing enclave was terrible. The customs, I drove myself all the way to Osei Kwame Kurom. Customs is taking money. And the roads, I said, okay, if we add value to the cashew, even the business community should be involved in sprucing up the road that brings the cashew from the farm gate to them to export.
All right.
So a lot of potential in cashew.
I think that we believed or were sold into this idea of Africa is the hub for raw materials, and it went on for so many years hundreds of years. It's time now for us to wake up and realize that raw materials, it just leaves you at the end of the value chain.
Exactly.
You see, we need to start adding value, like you say. Let me not take the wind out of your sail. Listen about me.
My take is that value addition will not be the product of a miraculous happenstance. Be the fruit of attention. Attention to the cashew industry, to say the least, is so minuscule as compared to other sectors. And as my sister pointed out, the rules there are terribly bad. And after interacting with some people in the cashew industry, we were told that many of them are not even breaking even. And we need to also indigenize that industry.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Indians who have invaded that place, and they are feeding fats on local people. So the time has come for officialdom to sharpen their eyes on the cashew industry to ensure that people in the industry benefit maximally from their product, and the nation as a whole will also thrive economically.
I mean, the same applies to the other things. Jababa, I'll come to you in a bit. I saw a video Bendo Chimalo did on Facebook or LinkedIn, I think, about how someone was processing sugarcane. They had built a small machine for it. Yes. You just plunge the sugarcane in there and it sort of squeeze the water out. It comes into a nice packaged thing. And you just sip and drink. And it was selling for like $6 or so. Yes. You know, the Western world, they know how to turn the least thing into something admirable, something that will make you want to spend your dollars, your money on. And I think that's what we like.
That's where we need to go. That's what, but sweetie, before my brother comes in, just so that we are not seen as bashing Indians, because they are good investors, but we have to encourage them to process the cashew in the Sampa enclave, build the factory. It's the same value chain. You add more money. So don't take it to India, but create the factory, add value, do the juices, do the cashew nuts, and sell that value added back into the community. So
guess who they sell the processed one to? Us. They come and take the raw materials here, go and do whatever they then come back here, and then we will buy at exorbitant prices. Mr. Jabab.
I think with them, they have identified the various uses of this cashew. So even when they come here to get it in the raw state, either they process, they don't process for now. As they don't process, they export it to their country. I read that in India, they use cashew nuts mostly to manufacture immune boosters. And it's so effective. And they bring this back in process form, and yet we go and buy. You see, so the best way to go, as I agree, is value addition. We need to process our raw materials. Cashew grows, I want to say, almost all over Ghana. You go to my constituency, for example, Karachi East. Recently, when some farmers decided to cultivate cashew, if I'm not mistaken, in a few years, it will become one of the major crops in the area.
Encourage that,
Yes, and they get a lot from cashew. So I believe that Ghana, God has blessed the land. So many things can be, produced on this land. If cashew is given attention, the industry is giving attention, not just producing it, but we should have the consensus efforts that we want to produce, we want to process it, and that we can derive the maximum value of that cashew industry, and it will benefit us.
Thank you. So the conversation is reminded me of something I read this morning from Professor Douglas Boateng. Legacy cannot be built in 4 or 5 years, but there's a point that, there it is. So point 3 says, we are rich in resources, but poor in resolve. Our mineral wealth is vast, yet our mindset remains borrowed.
Exactly.
Until we escape tyranny of the short term, Africa will keep exporting raw materials and importing regrets. It is time leaders accept that emerging sectoral sovereign wealth funds must not serve manifestos. They must serve the unborn silent stakeholders of tomorrow, shielded from politics, guided by generational purpose, and governed with discipline. Good morning, Prof.
That is so apt.
And
see, it just speaks to my heart. Indigenize, even Transparency International. Why should we, it's our mindset, why should we have so much confidence in someone else's thought when Vitus Azim has been slaving away in this country playing the watchdog? I'm for Prof's up-end. I'm for it.
All right, gentlemen.
Our language.
He is speaking our language. When I read this morning, I was like, yes.
That's exactly where the mindset should go.
Let's do some quick headlines from the other papers, and then we have to pop off. I don't know. Which one is that, Mr. Moni?
The National Enquirer.
Okay.
Government to scrap weekend demurrage charges at the ports, and this is good news to importers and exporters. Syndicated loan delays cost $840 million. The paper is quoting Randy Abbey, the Cocoa Board CEO, who has demonstrated so far conspicuous dazzle in that position. So Randy, keep on doing the good work. 24-hour economy is both a destination and a program, Mama says. Free SHS for private schools also next academic year, Dr. Park. Parliament to probe COVID-19 funds, Japa PDS scandals. And this coming from Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga.
Okay.
And NYA warns against sale of free apprenticeship forms. ITCU, NYA, another Ayariga, at this time Osman.
Okay. So, Moni, unfortunately, we can only do one story. Our time's run out. So, which one do you want us to get into?
Tax government to scrap.
Please, no, it's Mr. Moni's choice, not yours. I'll come to you.
And I've already, I've already ventilated my verdict. It's a good news to those in the industry. And that makes sense to impose taxes on people who, for reasons beyond them, are made to pay extra for having their goods locked at the port. And Parliament to probe of the 1905 Japan PDS scandal. Again, it's a campaign promise, and so we're all waiting to see how the probe will pan out, and we're calling for fairness. And one dictum in law, one is innocent until proven guilty by a court of competence, or institution of a competent institution. So far, nobody is guilty. So until the committee, Parliament zooms into action and unravel what's wrong in respect of the Japan, PDS, and COVID-19.
All right, thank you. We have the BNFT. That's the last paper we're going to do. Mr. Jabab, what are the stories on your front page?
Over 18% pay bribes when assessing public services. The GSS report. Then Nicholas Damso-Ejie, sweep triple honors. Then BOG governor cost private capital. These are the stories there.
Okay.
And we have only 50 out of 261 NNDAs maintain partial property database.
All right. Let me spend the remaining 1 minute to take your final views. So that if you get into the paper, we won't have any more time. So let's get final views and then we go. I want to start with you, Mr. Jabab. What's your final word for us this morning?
My final word this morning is a very good one. Why? Government, through the Ministry of Trade, is to scrap the weekend demurrage charges at our various ports. And I think it's good news to the Ghanaian importer. And when that happens, eventually it affects we, the consumers, too. So who benefits from the demurrage? The demurrage not sometimes, is paid, and it doesn't come to benefit anybody in the country. It benefits the shipping lines. As the containers are being kept there, probably the importer is processing exemptions, tax waivers, to be able to clear. Before you realize, then these demurrages are just slashed on it without recourse to even weekends. And we all know that our ports do not work on weekends. So you see that the importer is at disadvantage. The ports do not work at weekends. You tell me you are charging me demurrage.
So it's a good call.
It's a good
we have
call.
to go. Mr. Moni, last word.
Man is on the inquiry to whether to sack or not to sack the Chief Justice. And she understandably casts very frustrated figure. And because the position of Chief Justice comes with power and glory. Now her power has been abridged, her glory has been eclipsed. So we should understand. But whilst going into all this, we are appealing to everyone who has a role to play in this issue to ensure that the sanctity and integrity of the judiciary is maintained.
Thank you so much. Madam Catherine Apeku, final words.
Sweetie.
Let's go.
You've brought some heat on me. So my final word will be the promise I made to some people who watched our interview that you did the last year. Yeah, some friends in Italy are saying, I did tell you that I speak Italian, but I haven't shared with the people that I speak Italian.
Here comes Italian. Take us away.
I was this morning, I was like, okay, when I get to Sweetie's station, I'll prove it to her.
Okay.
Mi amici a Modena. Grazie a tutti, ma speriamo e preghiamo che il nostro presidente sviluppa il nostro paese per noi. Grazie.
Please, how do we know you didn't just
So
tell
I'm
us?
going to tell you because everybody, they are watching you that I'm saying thank you to them, those from Modena who called, that we are praying and hoping that our president would develop our nation for us.
Thank
But,
you.
Sweetie, I wish I could also rattle some German.
No way. Okay, let's go in 10 seconds. They're counting me down, but I'll allow it.
Time is our enemy now. But this is tell Dinah,
That we are versatile.
Lady Dinah of she's domiciled in Germany.
Yeah.
And her sweet husband, Papacy, God bless them indeed.
Please, is that going to be in German or that's it?
I was tempted
Okay,
to.
another time. So those who join us, Captain Apeku is former Member of Parliament, Evalua Jumoro constituency, and former Minister of State. Afemoni is also former President of the GJA, and of course, the Member of Parliament for Karachi East constituency, Nelson Kofi Jabab, all join us for the news review segment. But before...